An attack surface in terms of network security is the sum of all of the vulnerabilities that our network or devices might see. It's different areas that an attacker could either take control of or cause damage to. And so we can break this down into certain classifications. So let's classify the attack surface. Now the first area that we have is the network. Now the network area could involve ports that are open but shouldn't be, the use of protocols that are insecure, things like Telnet and FTP where we have clear text passwords that are being passed. It could be users that have access to administrative accounts. It could be bandwidth issues that could be exploited and cause problems for us. These are all areas where the attack surface would involve the network. Now another area that would be included in our attack surface would be the area of software. Now in terms of software, what we're talking about here are problems with the coding, right? So it could be improper coding, could be vulnerabilities in the application, poor privacy settings. Oftentimes people use open source applications and therefore the community is not maybe providing upgrades and patch management very well, and so that would cause some problems. We have the physical area of the attack surface, which would include anything that's hardware or physical, like the employee itself, which could cause a problem, or devices that are connected to the network that should not be connected to the network, like a rogue access point or a rogue switch or something to that nature. We also have social engineering. That is another attack vector. We have passwords that are put onto sticky notes. We have people who are sending out emails that are phishing for information, and oftentimes our end users are being exploited in that manner as well. Now, in terms of cybersecurity and being an analyst, you should be aware that we're not going to completely stop attacks. Attackers are going to continue to find alternative ways of spreading malware or accessing devices. So the proper security considerations should be focused on our high-risk areas and using proven techniques to protect from attacks, and also using advanced techniques and advanced technologies, perhaps like the Cisco ASA with advanced malware prevention or protection, and using those to prevent against emerging threats, the threats that we haven't seen yet. Analyzing our attack surface is going to help us to know what areas can be fixed right now. We can assess the risk and determine the level of risk if it's a high-value target, and then we can go ahead and patch from there. We want to test for vulnerabilities and flaws in our systems and in our software. And then we also want to have a plan on how we're going to respond during an incident of compromise or an IOC. We also want to use our security, information, and event management tools to help us tighten down our security. Now there are some considerations that we want to make here. So we want to design and develop the network infrastructure with the recommended security features and make sure that they are used in the right way so that we have a certain wall of protection. We want to hide vulnerable ports and make sure that we are preventing users from bypassing firewalls and gaining access through those open ports, especially when those ports are for protocols that are known to be vulnerable or less secure, again, like Telnet. We want to perform real-time monitoring of our data in the network. We want to promptly respond to changes in real time. So we really need to be watching the network. We want to get rid of unwanted or unused applications. That'll help us to reduce some of the risks. We want to limit the number of users and applications for both performance and security reasons. We want to enforce our policies and procedures on everyone in the organization, and we want to have them trained. Security policy can be properly enforced and used as a mechanism to prevent internal attacks. And we also want to reduce unnecessary requests, such as emails, database access, web pages, and alternatively, we can use load balancers, advanced firewalls, and VLANs to isolate users and to divert the attack from accessing more high-value areas in the network. Now, speaking of attack vectors, this refers to the method that an attacker is going to exploit. And this could be a means for them to exploit our systems or our network or our software applications. So we see viruses, we see email, spam with malware attached, we see adware, and we need to be aware that, again, our methods of providing security are not foolproof. It's important for us to maintain our bug fixes or our patch updates, and that will help us to prevent certain attacks from happening. We can classify these attack vectors based on their behavior or the amount of loss that could incur if a certain device were attacked. And so we could rate these or rank these as either being low risk or medium risk or high risk. And then we want to focus on mitigating the high risk first. Now, some attack vectors would include specific attacks like SQL injection. And there are specific areas where we're going to prevent against SQL injection attacks, typically on our database servers. We have distributed denial of service attacks, and we'll be preventing those attacks on our web servers or perhaps on our firewalls at our network gateway. There's phishing attacks, eavesdropping, and malware injection attacks. And typically, the attack vectors that we experience most often are going to affect our client computers or our important servers. So how do we prevent against these attack vectors? Well, there are a number of ways to protect against these different areas of attack. Some common ones include using honeypots to trap the malicious activity and divert it from our real targets. Using load balancers to manage the amount of traffic that we have. That helps to provide efficiency on the network, but also acts as a security measure. Implementing advanced firewalls and encrypting our data. Ensuring that we put our configurations through the proper test to ensure that we don't have any misconfigurations that we could run into. Making sure that our antivirus software is updated. Enforcing our security standards. Making sure that we're using the right protocols in the right locations on the network. That we're implementing proper procedures in terms of our security standards. And educating our employees about the risk that's involved and the impact that's involved in the cybersecurity area. Also, the use of our security information event management tools can also reduce the risk, especially if we're watching for anomalies and taking measures immediately rather than waiting for a composite attack to occur and being at a point where it's just too late to make any difference.